Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. Sorry. Hello, Nick. How are you? Apologies for that. I don't quite know what was happening there. I had a bit of funny 5 minutes. Welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. We've got quite a few people on tonight, so we'll race through this and we'll get started after our bizarre game on Saturday. So let's bring Vic on.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I thought you'd trying to sort of get the visibility sort of blank so that we'd have to start the game again. That would be probably the best way of doing it.
What happened there? Every time I clicked on something, something else turned up. So there you go. I was just replicating it from Saturday then.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah, a bizarre afternoon, which we'll be discussing in great detail in a minute.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Oh, I've got some SAS news just in. This is from SAS. Handful of spaces left for Newport, which is Friday night, the 24th of January. Don't forget. We are playing on a Friday night at Newport. Still need a lot of interest for second to Carlisle, which I think is the 1st of February. Now, Newport leaves the county ground at 4:30 and goes to West Swindon at 4:40 because it's going out that way. Now, it leaves for Carlisle on the 1st of Feb at 7 in the morning, 6:30 from West Swindon, 7:20 at Cirencester. Going to be a long day. So, Laura, thank you very much for sending that information in. That's great. We can get that out to you. It's very good. Right, on the youths front, a couple of good results for them. On Saturday, they won 3-1 at Newport. Joe Awiti, George Alston and Ash Glynn got the goals for Swindon in South Wales. And then I believe somebody was in attendance at this one. At Nursteed Road in Devizes on Wednesday in the snow. They won 6-0 against Cheltenham. Our on-the-spot reporter says, was it a good game?
It was a very good game. It was the Youth Alliance Cup, played at the Wiltshire FA headquarters, and it was a really good game. Boatin Amin got a hat-trick, and they were a far better team than Cheltenham. And they got a lot of class, I think, Swindon. There's some players there that really stood out, that really shone out. So it's all looking good on that front. Yes, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Stood there freezing in the snow, and it was only very light snow. I can't say it was. I couldn't build a snowman, but it was very light snow. But yes, it was good.
Very good. What about the women? They did all right over the weekend. Well, one team did, one team didn't, as it were.
Yeah, Development lost 1-0, unfortunately. But then the women were played at, sorry, is it Bournemouth?
Southampton. The Development team played at Bournemouth. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And they won 5-0. So they were good for them as well. So, and they didn't have the fog that we did. And it looks like we've got lots of comedians on tonight. So Daz says, haven't got the foggiest, what's going on? Yeah, see? And Tony says, I can see you. So I think we're going to have a lot of that this evening. So
excellent. Well, we don't mind that. Yeah, good.
Right, should we bring everybody on and let's
Why
get
don't
started?
we? Yeah.
So we got Andy, and we got Andy. We got Holly. We got Nick. We've got Jamie. And we got Mike.
Wow, bumper bundle.
There we go, full house. Right, I'll leave you. Want to say anything, put it in the comments and we'll get through as many comments or questions or whatever as we can. See you soon.
Thanks, Chris, very much indeed. Thank you all very much indeed for your attendance this evening. Mike has a hot drink, unlike some people apparently in the Arkles on Saturday. We've got a lot of issues to talk about, and we may even mention the most bizarre football match I think that many of us have been to in a long, long time. But Nick, you were down this neck of the woods last Wednesday. You saw the snow at Newton Abbot, etc., etc. You can vouch for me and say it was jolly cold here, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, especially as we had an early game, so it started off all right, but as the game went on, and that second half, it chucked it down with rain. Then as the game finished, the sleet started coming in, and as we left out of there, the snow and certain parts were covered in snow really bad. But we were lucky we got out of there just in time. So
you did.
We didn't have that much of a problem.
Because you wouldn't have got home, because Telegraph Hill and Holden Hill would close later, so you did well. Well done, my son. Right, we got lots of issues to get through. And I think let's address them as we go through, because we'll get onto the game. There's no question about that. But I know, Andy, you've been speaking today to Noel, the safety officer at the football club.
Yep.
And we've been putting these issues to them. And Noel has kindly said he'll come on in a couple of weeks' time and we can talk the whole process, which is really what we want to get to. But, of course, there were issues on Saturday. We want to address them. Let's go through this one. And I think many people will agree this is quite important. The tannoy not working in the Don Rogers needs to be addressed. This is from Kim. Only way we knew what was going on was by messaging friends in the Arkle stand. Couldn't find out from social media either because phones weren't loading. If there'd been a major incident going on, we wouldn't have a clue. Now, I've asked Kim to tell us where she sits in the Don Rogers, because Chris was telling us earlier that she sits in the middle and can hear what's going on. Now, Holly, you sit near the town end. So how is that for you?
Yeah, it is a bit tricky. It's quite hard to hear. If, everyone stops talking and you go, hang on a minute, what was that? You can hear it. But when there's lots of noise in the crowd or, you're all having a chat, it's a bit tricky. So, yeah, you kind of have to really focus and pay attention.
Yeah, well, Swindon Sparkle sent this in saying not even Bycroft knew the game was being suspended and he was on the pitch. So, so maybe he didn't hear the announcement at all. What did Noel say to you?
They're going to investigate that. I think, having had experiences about this for some years, haven't we? Even when Rob Angus was CEO, one of the challenges I think they have is there's a differential between, 1 minute it works in the Arkles and it doesn't work in the Don Rogers and everything like that. But I've sort of raised it to them and said, look, clearly this is an issue because it's one thing not being able to hear music and this, that and the other, but Saturday it was relevant information about, whether the game was being suspended and what, and with all the fog around, with the visibility being difficult, you couldn't see very far. You needed to hear, and if you can't hear as well, so that was quite a challenge. And he's promised that they're going to investigate it, and we need to pinpoint the key areas, as like Holly's alluded to. I think it appears that it's either side in the Don Rogers, because Chris was saying that she sits in the middle, and it's not a problem. And I don't believe it's a problem in the Arkles, but if people want to sort of like message in, and we'll pass this back up to Noel, and we need to get this issue addressed for once and for all, don't we?
Nick, you were also in the Don Rogers, I think, weren't you? Whereabouts exactly were you sitting?
Well, I'm sat right at the bottom in the disabled bit. I'm with my brother, and you couldn't make out anything. It was just a muffled. I had to ask the steward what was going on, and they said it's suspended for 20 minutes and stuff like that. But no, I couldn't make nothing out.
So is that whereabouts is that? Towards the halfway line or either end of the Don?
No, I was between the town end and the halfway line.
Right.
I was probably nearer to the town end more, and I couldn't hear nothing on the tannoy when it came on. I'm trying to listen. There's not many people around me, so I'm undercover in that disabled part, and I couldn't make nothing out. So
that bears out what we've heard already, that it appears to be it's on either side, not in the middle of the Don Rogers. I mean, if you sit in the middle of the Don Rogers and you have a problem with that, then let us know. Is this from Matt? Saturday was a shambles. Massive queues, ice everywhere, poor tannoy, and hardly any provisions in the Don Rogers. Kiosks shut at half-time, down by the junior red room, etc. A poor match day experience, unfortunately. Could hear the tannoy on the concourse, but not outside. Nick says, can we discuss how hard it even to enter the Don Rogers stand, even arriving at 1440? And speakers in the Don Rogers Stratton Bank end wasn't working. So again, that bears out the fact that, and it appears that it is in the middle of the Don Rogers where it's working, but not on either wing.
And I'll pass that up to Noel for them to look at, because as I say, clearly it is an issue.
Because Chris, you sit in the middle of the Don Rogers, don't you?
I sit in the middle, so I sit in the lower of the right on the halfway line. And okay, I can't say that we hear it all, because if you can't hear it, then I'm not missing it. But I certainly heard everything about the suspension, when they were coming back out, the players came back to warm up, everything like that I heard on Saturday. So it's okay. And I just want to pick up, because we can answer one of these other ones, saying about the kiosks were closed at half time down by the Junior Reds room. That was because the tills went down in that kiosk. So they had to shut that one. That was what Vicky said to us today, didn't she, Holly?
Yeah.
About that. So, and that's one other thing that Royston Cropper has emailed it, as mentioned, and he says the usual hand-picked happy clappers. Royston Cropper, I know that it's a made-up name, it's not your real name, but you are very welcome to come on, and it's not hand-picked. We ask anybody who wants to come on to come on.
Yeah.
Vic and I say this every week. If there's anybody that wants to come on here, please let yourself be known, and we can get you on. So yeah. So, but yeah, about the tannoys, that's my input.
I've got to say to you, Royston, that we are addressing the issues tonight. We're not hiding from them, when we're not saying everybody was brilliant. So I'm not sure what point you're trying to make. And if, as I said many times, if anybody's happy with what's going on this season in terms of our league position, I don't think any of us are. Right. Let's have a look. Lee says the Townend Arkle side can play up. Goodness me. Here's another one. This is from Tony. Don Rogers stand closed to enter until 20-3. Many rows of the stand cordoned off. No stewards to assist. Had to get the safety officer to check. Stand full of ice back 15 rows. Stated that there are more supporters than seats available. Very dangerous. Spoken to the referee. No stewards were mined up. I think it might be lined up. What did Noel say about that, Andy?
In terms of the ice, or the what you?
Well, there was a delay in letting people into the Don Rogers. I know that because I walked around there and they weren't letting people in. That was presumably because they wanted to grip the back of the stand.
They were having to. One of the biggest issue I think they had was there was obviously quite considerable changes in temperature. Well, we could see that because of the way the fog lifted, and they had salted air everywhere. And the problem with the taping off of the seats was as a result of condensation falling off the Don Rogers stand and freezing. So they took a decision to actually tape it off. They did actually consider, closing the Don Rogers completely and moving to other parts of the ground. Obviously, that would have been a logistical challenge. We've challenged them about whether they should have been probably a bit more communication about that, maybe having a steward at that area. I'm not aware that anywhere was particularly icy. I haven't heard that, and certainly there was no incidents reported of any injuries. But please let us know if there was. The steward at the bottom of the Don Rogers stand, to where the seats had been cordoned off, was apparently telling people of that. And I have to say that some people chose to ignore that and tore the tape down and went and sat in their seats. So. We do have a duty of care, don't we? So that's the situation there. In terms of the actual turnstiles, I wasn't aware that they weren't open at all. But one of the challenges that they had was that there was a large queue. People were arriving quite late, and understandably so, because they didn't know the game was on. They were obviously coming from the sort of town end, by the shop. And apparently, when they realised there was a queue, the club opened up more turnstiles. Again, there's a challenge around letting people know, because I think what they were doing is then joining their one queue. And this scenario of having a large queue, and then there was a few turnstiles open that people weren't using. So there was a challenge back to them to say, well, in future, you need to sort of marshal that a little bit better. But apparently they did open extra turnstiles when they realised there was a queue. And it was late, I think, when the queue started to...
Tony says, sorry, didn't sort the back row. I mean, the problem is, I'm sitting in the Arkles like many of us were. And of course, we couldn't actually see the Don Rogers, so we had no idea what was going on about any of it, really. And I know that Jay on the tannoy, annoying though, if you can't hear him saying it, was repeatedly saying that there's a delay in the Don Rogers stand, which thank you for your patience, etc. But that doesn't help if you can't hear it. So
No.
those issues.
There's a lot of challenges. We've gone back to the club and say, look, you've got to learn from this. And I mean, certainly that, there was a question about salt running out. No, they had sufficient bags of salt. And one of the things I will say, and as we've experienced when we're on the roads, sometimes, you can salt somewhere and then, a time later you have to resalt because of a change in temperature. And I think they found that the temperatures were changing. And obviously, when there's footfall, the salt gets dissipated. And so they have to resalt. And obviously, that it was unprecedented on Saturday, but they've got to learn from some of these legitimate things, and certainly the tannoy is an issue. One thing I will also raise as well, while we're on the subject, is I've raised quite harsh about the fact that there was no hot drinks in the Legends Lounge. Now I know that's been a situation all season. But I have been confirmed. It's been confirmed to me tonight that there will be hot drinks available on Saturday, not tomorrow night, unfortunately. But for the Barrow game, hot drinks will be available in the Legends Lounge on Saturday.
Matt says those queues were the same on New Year's Day, and others. They're fobbing you off. Did you feel as though you were fobbed off?
No, I didn't. And one of the things that they said about New Year's Day is also there were issues around the fact that people were arriving late. There was things like the pubs weren't open and the buses weren't running. So again, it was slightly different arrangements, maybe. And they did say that also the last 5 home games, the weather has been a bit inclement. We haven't had a normal run, but they should be learning from this, and I believe they are. We'll just see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll continue to go through this as the evening goes on. Because if you've got any more questions, please throw them in. Because I know Andy had a long conversation with Noel. As I said, Noel is going to come on and talk us through the whole safety thing, which I think would be very useful. Right. John Stevens has sent in the marks. So I don't know if you're ready on the lighter side of life. Evening all, making an unwelcome comeback. I've got a solid 8. Thanks, John. It's very kind of you. Andy, same as last time. I don't know. Andy G needs work, which I think it's a bit unfair.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, a bit unfair. Jamie C. Andy 5 needs work. Nick had me fooled until pixelation kicked in, so he too thought that was your lounge, which is very nice. Holly, an improvement from last time, 5. So there you go, in the right direction. Mike, good perspective on home life, 5. Rob, who isn't even on, rubbish, 1. So thank you for.
Please, he never marks me. That's good.
Yeah, giving us a bit of a laugh, which is good. I haven't read this one out from Kim, which did I? I can't remember anyway. Also, the tannoy not working needs to be addressed. I think did I do that one? Yeah, I've done that one. Coldest feet I've had since the Crawley game at night when Evans was in charge in the cup, -4 then. Felt sorry for the staff, to be honest. Fans of a section of the stand closed off. Add in a couple of weeks ago, my mate took a tumble on some moss by the second Don Rogers gate, informed the club of the issue to get it fixed, hadn't got a reply. Health and safety is something you can't just try your best at. The staff on duty work very hard. This is not a criticism of them, but gritting shouldn't be done at 2:15, and a steward should be given clear instruction to make it known, etc. So we're taking all these on board. They'll all be played back to the club, trust me. Hi, Sean. Hi, Vic. A full report on the club PA has been submitted to them in the past couple of months, and I believe it's being looked into. Hi, Sean. Thank you very much indeed for that. So keep them coming in, and all these points will be put to the club, because the more we learn, the better we can put it to them. Let's go around then and ask about our experiences of Saturday. Mr. Garrett. I don't know about you, but I think it's the most surreal football match I've ever been to. I can't think of another one. It even comes close.
I think you're right, Vic. I was trying to think on Saturday of a previous occasion, and I can't think of one. We've had abandonments in the past, noticeably the Brighton one back in the 1970s when we were 4-0 up. But there's nothing like that at all. It was quite bizarre. I was convinced when the fog came down that it was almost certainly going to be abandoned. and then it seemed to lift a little bit, and things got a little bit better. I see there was a comment in the Football League paper saying that it was no better when we started playing than when they called the players off. I don't think that's quite true. I think it was slightly better when the players came back out. But yeah, very surreal indeed.
I think the thing is, Holly, what made me there was a lovely bit of humour with the crowd singing "What's going on? What's going on?" I thought that was a lovely piece of football humour. What was it like for you? I mean, we couldn't see the Don Rodgers, as I said, and I had no idea we'd hit the post in the first half. I really didn't have a clue.
No clue. I had my eyes tested on Friday night, and I was told my vision was okay, but I questioned that come Saturday afternoon, to be honest. But no, it was quite surreal how quick I think the fog changed in terms of just before kick-off. I had a photo on my phone, and you could see quite a lot. But obviously, by that 3-minute mark, you couldn't see anything, and it just kind of
Oh, you're frozen a bit. Is that to do with the weather or the fog? I'm not sure. We'll come back to you. How about you, Nick? It was surreal, wasn't it?
Yeah. I couldn't believe from kickoff to that 3 minutes how it suddenly went like that. I couldn't believe it. And then you didn't, again, because of the tannoy, I didn't know what was going on. And if I look out my window, I can see the county ground. I live in Shrewsbury Road. So me and my brother, we went back home.
Did you come back?
No.
Oh.
Because I thought the first half you wouldn't see. The first half was still so foggy. I thought where we were sat, we wouldn't see the Stratton Bank when Swindon were attacking. But by half time, we were just comfortable at home watching it on the TV. So
yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, Holly, sorry, you were talking and then you froze a bit. So what were you saying?
It's just how quick it changed from kind of before kickoff to the 3-minute mark. It went really the fog came over and just got worse. But yeah, had no idea what was going on. Was really excited, to see Tom Nicholls' debut, and don't think I saw him or know much more about him yet, to be honest. But yeah, it was surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, it was very odd. More comments coming in, which we'll get to in a minute. This is from Peter. Hi, Peter. Watching a live follow, thought Andrew Hawes did a wonderful job of communicating what was going on. I think you were listening to him, Jamie, weren't you? What was being said when they couldn't see, I assume?
Oh, I was. I mean, I listened to Andrew and the radio every home game. We're at home. I think in 39 years or so, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. So I don't recall ever not being able to see the other stand as a whole, and virtually assuming there was no stand there anyway. I mean, quite honestly, it was that bad. But I have to say, Andrew did a brilliant job, and it was actually the most amusing part of the day was them trying to explain what was going on the pitch, where they really had no clue beyond the halfway across. So at one point, they were definitely describing, we assume it's with a player, and they must be going out like, oh, actually, it's a corner. No idea how that happened, and that was kind of how but they saw the funny side of it, and I have to say they were in touch with when the whole discussions on the pitch and stuff happening. They were on the pitch. They talked to Holloway twice when it was going on. So actually, they were probably the best source of information that was going on. So credit to them for what was definitely a challenging. They couldn't have been further away from the pitch if they tried, could they?
Not really, no.
I think the bit I was going to say though is, I think we actually do need to give credit to the officials, because I think that would have been so easy just to do the easy option and call that off really. I think we were probably most of us were standing in the crowd going, just call it off, it ain't worth it. But they were clearly talking to someone. They were clearly, from what they were saying on the radio, they were clearly talking to the Football Association, and they were clearly talking to the Met Office. So I think we do have to say that there was credit due, because they were right. It did eventually clear. I was surprised they didn't give it a little bit longer before they came back on. But in hindsight, I think credit where credit's due. They could have taken the easy option and just said call it off, and we all would have been moaning then if it had been an hour and a half later or hour later and it was perfectly blue sky. I think the bit that astounded me was how quickly it disappeared again.
Yeah, incredible.
So when it did get to that last 15, 20 minutes or so, literally suddenly it appeared like a normal evening, didn't it?
Yeah, it was weird. Mike, I think Jamie makes a very good point about the officials and indeed, of course, the ground staff. Matt Povey and his ground staff did a fabulous job in actually getting the game on in the first place. But the referee, I think he handled it superbly. And often we sort of moan, don't we, at referees? But I think to Mr. Lee Swaby, we should also say thank you very much and congratulations. You did a great job.
Yeah, I saw the interview with Holloway afterwards, and also the interview with their manager as well. They both said the same thing. The referee did a fantastic job. I'll echo what you just said about the groundsman as well and his team. Absolutely fantastic effort to get that game on. Because none of us woke up, those of us who live in Swindon, woke up Saturday morning thinking, there's no way we're going to be playing today. I'd like to make one comment that nobody else has raised, and I'd like a personal appeal that visiting goalkeepers, next time there's a foggy game, can you please not wear coloured kit? Because I couldn't see their goalkeeper at all. Only two things that I could see all the players apart from their goalkeeper. The only thing I couldn't see was the ball. I had no idea where the ball was because the ball seemed to be fog coloured as well.
No.
Very frustrating, that.
There's a whole spot the ball competitions out of that game, aren't there? You could do as many as you want. There's a whole load of them. Holly's moved venues, which is, I think your marks might go up because it looks a very nice sofa and lighting effect behind. So John might give you an improved mark with that one. Andy, we got more coming in here. The Don Rogers was very icy, and it is ridiculous that it was closed to the punters until very close to kickoff. It was at best incompetent, and at worst, the club being totally disrespectful to fans. I suppose the worst thing that could have happened would have been a sudden rush, wouldn't it, of people trying to get in at the last minute. And that, of course, leads to all sorts of problems, as we know. Fans complained food, etc., running out at half-time. Well, don't forget, when game was on hold, there were huge queues for food and drink in the concourse because half-time came at a time when normally it will be over, basically. So that's some more points to put to the club.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you know, we'll take all the relevant ones and we'll pass them back. And as I say, with the tannoy and the and certainly the turnstiles thing is it's not the first time, as I say. So they need to consider it. The one with the point, I actually for my sins, I sit next to Mike and with
hard luck, Mike.
Unluckily, I was having to point out what was happening because they're obviously a little bit older than me, and they couldn't see. I actually saw Ollie Clark hit the post, so I feel quite pleased.
Yeah, but you couldn't tell me which post he did.
No, this is true. And I think what it was you were actually trying to focus on a certain part of the ground and see whether you could see it more clearly or not. You were using the Morris Owen advertising hoarding in a Don Rogers, and also the clock, wasn't it? Whether you're seeing, and as you say, my experience is in 50 years, I've been to two games that have been abandoned because of fog. So the Bradford one in 1988 and the Hitchin one in 1976. Surreal. Never anything like that.
Well, Daz St George's has just messaged in about that one. 16th of January 1988, Swindon Town versus Bradford City, Barclays League. Remember that one? Division 2, match abandoned after 72 minutes of fog. Referee a certain David Ellery.
Lord Ellery.
Reading 3-0. Well,
Uncle Dave.
Yes, Sir Dave, yes. Where's Steve White when you need him? What a good penalty that was. Never a doubt, was there, about that one? So 3-0 up, and that was abandoned because of fog.
There was always sorry to interrupt, Vic. There was an allegation in that game because Bradford had a bloke sent off in the first half, and they reckon it was so foggy that they'd actually had 11 players on the field in the second half and no one knew.
Well, to be honest, if they'd had 15 on Saturday, we wouldn't have noticed, would we?
No.
You could have got away with anything. Hi, Simon. There was a game in the 90s at the county ground that was really foggy and the crowd was commentating. I think it's great when they do that. I think it's real sort of terrace humour. Mr. Garrett, what were you? How did we play? As far as you could tell, I thought we played really well second half. I had no idea about the first.
Well,
to be honest,
we could see what was going on in the second half. So it was a little bit more clearer. I think we played very well in the second half. Say the first half you couldn't really comment on because there wasn't much that you could see, but it was very encouraging. I think second half. It's a shame we couldn't see a little bit more of Tom Nichols. I presume that he was brought off just to get a little bit. He's not played a great deal, has he, at Mansfield? But from what we did see, it was encouraging. I think apart from the shot that he put straight at the keeper, which I think he could have probably done a little bit better with that one. Yeah, but yeah, encouraging second half, definitely.
Yeah, he was taken off on 66 minutes. Botan Amin came on and showed a bit of pace, ran at them, had a couple of really good runs down the wing as well, so caused him a few problems. Nick, let's talk from the coach's perspective about organisation, because I know you went home because, you know, it was cold and you wanted to get warm again and stuff. Let's talk about organisation and what Holloway's done. What has he done?
Well, the team is not having as much changes, so there's more consistency. I think that's good. They're changing every week. You know, the back three seems more solid when they can, when he plays them. And I think that helps. And the shapes is better. So it's more consistency. To me, at one time, every game, it was, you didn't know you couldn't pick your starting 11. Now, roughly, you know a lot of the players that will be playing in that system. And I think that's good. It's only certain players that are injured, like Cox. But now he's coming back, wasn't it? He's supposed to have a fracture, but he ain't got a fracture or whatever.
He hasn't.
No. So yeah, they're saying he'll be back this weekend, and he can be back this weekend. So the certain players, you know, they're going to play now. Well, before you just didn't know. I just think it was chopping and changing too many. You got to, you know, he seems to know his players better now. He's been there longer, and he's more consistent with that, with the setup, and I think that's good.
Yeah, I think you're right. Another couple here, Andy, to put down on the list. Hi, Claire. What about the fire exit door that reportedly wouldn't open in the Don Rogers stand too? So you can put that one on the list. And the late opening needed to be communicated to the fans. Also, the stewards should have been directed fans to open turnstiles where the queues were least. All these are being put to the club, so don't worry, none of these will be left out.
I did see one there that's come in from Sean about the Legends opening when the game was on hold.
Yes.
And that's a legitimate question. I will point out, though, they couldn't open the bar because the game is technically still on, and you can't serve alcoholic drinks whilst the game.
But then you could counter that by saying we don't need to serve alcohol. Just open the door, let people in and get warm.
Yeah, that's that's something I'm gonna go back to them on.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask that why the bar never got open? Because I know a couple of friends of mine, when we left, they left and went over to Queenstown pub because they said the bar weren't open. They wanted to drink.
What, during the game? Well,
when
it was suspended, Nick, technically the game is still in progress, so they're not allowed to sell alcohol whilst the game is in progress.
Okay.
That's why they serve at half time, but they can't during the game, as it were.
Oh, because they were saying, look, the bar should be open. We'd stay here, but they went across to the Queenstown to get a drink because the bar wasn't open. That's interesting because they didn't know. I didn't know that. I thought.
If you remember in COVID times, Nick, I mean, there was this issue about sort of having hotels. Remember, we played Blackpool, and they weren't allowed to sort of. You couldn't watch the game. Even they had to shut the curtains because you had the ability to drink and watch a live game. It's that ridiculous.
Well, they do that at Accrington as well in their social club. They
do. Yeah.
Helen says, waiting for the 4 o'clock kickoff. Many of us with children left. They were all too cold. I mean, you had Carter with you, Holly. I mean, how was he? Was he all right?
Yeah, he was. He doesn't stop moving, to be honest. So, you know, we sit where we sit to try and keep away from too many people. So he's not, you know, blocking views or anything. So I think, you know, his kind of wriggling around helps keep him warm. But it was cold. It was bitterly cold. Throughout, you know, the whole game, and by the end of it was freezing. But yeah, it can't be helped, I guess, can it? Really, the fog.
It was a ridiculous situation, as I said. Many people. I mean, it was just the bizarre way in which it cleared. You know, went away. It's just like magic. Oh, it's gone. There it is. Let's run through the team then. In goal was Bycroft, who made a really crucial save towards the end. The back three: Clark, Wright, and Delaney. I'll talk about Delaney in a minute. Sabawali, Kilkenny, Offerbor, who went off for Cottrell on 85 minutes. Kirkman, you can talk about him too. Drinnan, who was substituted for Butterworth on 90. Nichols, as I said, he was taken off on 66. And then Smith. Jamie, let's talk about Ryan Delaney, shall we? Now, many of us have think, well, why have we brought him in? Because he clearly isn't fit. He is clearly in this. He clearly in that. I think we're seeing now why he was brought in the first place.
I think we're starting to see players that maybe are a fit. I think that was part part of the problem is we didn't really have that spine that we said earlier. We weren't playing consistently. And I think you started to get that consistent kind of centre backs playing on a regular basis. I still like to see him up against a quick forward. I think it's very much the physical battle is clearly what he loves, isn't it? And kind of, I think the organisation going up against a guy who wants to take him on physically. I mean, quite frankly, he was dominating the in the air with him and Wright were kind of cleaning up everything. I think they look like they're communicating more. And I know Holloway's talked a lot about getting them to speak to each other and talk to them. I think that's quite noticeable. The amount of talking, movement, organising, and I think Ollie Clark is key to that. I think since he's been the regular, I think he's that instigator of conversation. He's that kind of the leader I think we were missing so badly for so many games. But you start to get that spine of Clark, and I think Clark and Offerball as well look like a fantastic pair that look like they're going to actually dominate a midfield. But I think the centre backs look more organised. But I think the one player I want to pull out is Kirkman. I think he's been a revelation. For someone we'd never heard of and then been shipped out and clearly not fancied. I thought he was exceptional, and actually looks like he's a lot more experienced than he is. I think there's quite an exciting player there.
Well, we were at Wickham, weren't we? And he scored in that particular EFL trophy game and looked pretty good. Pretty early on, he scored as well. That was the day after he'd been recalled. So we thought, hey, here's a player here. So Chris said, my man of the match Saturday. I think many people might have gone along with that. Mike, what were your thoughts on the team? I mean, off the ball, I think many of us questioned the fact that he didn't play at Notts County and might have made a difference with their midfield. I mean, he's just one of those players who's destructive but can also pass the ball, if you know what I mean.
I think one of the things that I've noticed over recent weeks that we just didn't have under Kennedy is the will to win. The will to not lose is what Holloway seems to put into these guys. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I've been banging on about Aaron Drinan now for months and months and months. I'd love to see him score more goals. But one thing you cannot fault him on is his work rate. Every single week he puts in so much work. And now we're talking about other players having a similar work rate, and Offerdale was one of them. That before we thought, no, he's okay in patches, but drifts out of the game. The two of them and Clark, I thought Saturday were absolutely immense. Yeah, you can go on about Kirkman, and I thought he had a great game. But Drinner's my man of the match virtually every week at the moment, just for his pure work rate. And he just will not give in. It was like watching the Tamworth players against Tottenham yesterday. They were dead on their feet, but they were not going to give in until the end. I'm loving Aaron Drinan at the moment. I just want him to score more goals, because if he doesn't score more goals, he may not stay in the team.
Yeah, Harry Smith is top scorer with 10, of course. But Aaron Drinan, I mean, he's had a couple of chances. He had one against Notts County. He had a similar one on Saturday, which he put into the side netting. Yeah. So they go, I don't know, 6 inches to the left. And he gets 2 goals, doesn't he? Simple as that, really. Yeah. What about the goalkeeper then, Holly? I mean, Bycroft did make that really crucial save right at the end. Barden, I don't know if you were still in the junior Reds when he's got a black eye, hasn't he? So he's obviously not right. So what are your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation?
Yeah, I think he didn't have a lot to do, if I'm honest. I think probably, defensively we worked quite well, which I guess protected him from, having to do too much. But that save, I think, was, it was crucial, because I think it came at a time when it felt like the game could go either way. Everyone was looking for that, pinch the kind of win at the end, and just trying to get that last goal. And I think that, really kept us in the game. So absolutely crucial. But yeah, Barden was in the junior Reds room with his black eye, bless him, felt guilty making him smile and, having to move it for photos with the kids. But, he was brilliant. But yeah, it was really nice. I think that was the first clean sheet we've had in quite a long time. So,
long time, yeah.
So I think that's a really positive takeaway.
Yeah, definitely. You've been taken to task, Mike. Drinan, this is from Daniel. Drinan being man of the match is a very confusing statement. I think you're watching different games. Striker's role is to score. He just doesn't do that anywhere often enough. You have the right of reply, sir.
My right of reply.
Yes, you have a right to reply. Yes.
We've all got two eyes and we all watch a game of football and we all watch different things. Wouldn't it be really boring if we all thought the same thing?
Absolutely. Martin. Hi, Martin. Mr. Smithers. Barden didn't exactly cement the shirt. Surely Bycroft has possession of it for the time being, having done his job on Saturday. Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Offerballs reminds me of a Grant. Well, we all thought that when he first came, didn't we? And Carol says Offerball's uncle sat in front of me at Notts County and was definitely not happy that he wasn't playing that game. I think we all were a bit surprised that he didn't actually play. Andy, let me talk about possession. Once again, Swindon had less possession, but got a decent result, 49.6% to Crewe's 50.4%, which proves to me that possession, smashing, who cares? You know, it's the result that counts.
I don't know, because is that first half as well? So how would you know? I'd hate to know who did the stats on that. Yeah. It's interesting.
I think we had 100% possession in the first half, just nobody could see it. Yeah.
I'll give you an interesting stat. When was the last time we played a team home and away and got 0-0 draws?
We'll leave that one open so people can answer it.
Yeah. I just generally, you're just getting a much better feel watching this team now. And every now and again we go backwards. Saturday before Notts County, I think everyone that was there, you talk about Offerball, we cried out for Offerball that game, because we could have told, respectfully, Ollie, said, look, there's a bloke in their side that if we're not careful, he's going to do one on us. He's called McGoldrick. He does it to us quite regularly. He did it there last season, if we could recall. All you need to do, if you watched him, he just wandered around and went into space, and he's so clever. And all you do is you mark his space. What Nobby Stiles used to do on Eusebio. Hey, there's one for you. And it just cried out, didn't it, for Offerball? Cottrell didn't pick him up. Matt Wheelwright was then having to come out from the back to cover him, and obviously then they were exposing space. It was so clever to watch it, but I was saddened that Offerball was crying out for him last night. And then when he was in there Saturday, it was just so strong in there. And ironically, Clark wasn't actually in that, because he was playing at the sort of back three, wasn't he? So I'm really beginning to start to feel there is a structure there. And in response to Drinnan, I agree what Mike is saying. I mean, he reminds me of Chick Bates. Perhaps Chick Bates scored a few more goals. Jerry Yates scored a few more goals. Every team does need that sort of person. Billy Painter, even. He's there doing it. He's doing a job, and all of a sudden, hopefully, if what he does lack is a few goals. And if he did that, you really would be saying there's a player there.
Yeah. More questions on the ground. Hi from Lena. If you want to write this down, has Stratton Bank got a safety certificate? Darren says stewards opened a gate in Townend for fans to have a cigarette. They allowed people through from the Arkles, but then tried to refuse a return to the Arkles. This isn't the first time stewarding has come into question. And hi, Nick, isn't the bars another example of how they need to communicate better to fans? I think that's a fair point. I only found that out on Saturday, so I think that is a fair point. Right, let's have a look at the table. We played Barrow on Saturday. They're currently 15th. They've played 24. They've got 28 points and a goal difference of -3. Newport, who we play a week on Friday, played 23, 26 points, goal difference -10. Then Accrington, 25 points in 23 games, -10 goal difference. Then in a lofty 20th place, he said ironically, Swindon, 25 points from 26 games, -10 goal difference. Harrogate in 21st, 25, -16 from 25 games. And Tranmere in 22nd, 25 from 24 games, -19 is the goal difference. And then the bottom two in 23rd, Morecambe, 20 points from 24, -17 goal difference. And Carlisle, 18 points from 24 games, -19. Now, Swindon 5 points clear of the relegation zone. Here's something I'm going to put to you, Mr. Garrett. There are games coming up. We've got Barrow Saturday, then we've got Newport, then we've got Carlisle. You look at those games and you think there's some points to be had there.
There certainly is. Barrow seem to be in a bit of free fall, don't they, at the moment? I think they're bottom of the form table at present. So that's a must-win game on Saturday, I think. and then going to Newport. We've got to pick something up at Newport. There seems to be a lot of teams being dragged into it now. I think we're only 3 points off Colchester. Was that right, Beck?
Oh, I've got Colchester in front of me, but you're right. Yeah, you are right. Yeah.
So, I think, you're looking about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 clubs that could easily be pulled into things. Carlisle, I can possibly see Carlisle start to pick up some points. They've made quite a few signings, I believe, in January. So you think that they might be one of the sides that are near the bottom that are going to pick up points. So Morecambe, Harrogate, maybe, I don't know. I think they could be 2 teams that are going to be fighting it out down the bottom come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think Harrogate picked up a bit of confidence, didn't they, from their performance against Leeds. Colchester's 17th at the moment with 27 points, so sitting 2 points behind them. But as we know, Colchester are a strange fish. You can never tell how they're going to do. Simple as that, really. I think we should also say congratulations to Exeter City on Saturday, who did remarkably well in the FA Cup against a certain team from down the A420. Well done, Exeter. Very good indeed. Nick, all those games coming up then, I mean, obviously it is a conundrum for you as a coach. Birmingham tomorrow in the Virtu Motors Trophy, and then a league game on Saturday. As a coach with a reasonably small squad because of injuries, etc., what do you do?
Yes, an awkward one. I would, for me, that's where I'd play like Amin. I'd start him up front, give him a good run out. I'd like to see a bit more of him. Certain players like that I would play. I'd probably rest Smith, and I'd want him on Saturday. Smith, I think he's doing a good job as a target man. He links up play well. He's good on the ball, so he's one I'd rest. I'd probably play Nichols in Amin. I would, because Nichols needs the game time.
Can't play Nichols.
He's played in the trophy. Yeah,
yeah. I remember them saying that now. Yeah, but he was one I'd look at something like that. So certain players, I think, need to play the back four. I'd probably play. Or the back, or that with the goalie and the free, because I want to keep that consistent. A clean sheet, you want to keep that going. And if someone I know people say, oh, someone might get injured, you might get knocked over crossing the road, as we say, innit? So, but certain players I would play. Like I said, the fringe players, I would definitely give them a game in that tomorrow. But I'd still stick to the core because you want to keep that. You want to keep the run going. Because the problem with Swindon this year against the top teams, I think we've been a better team. We've played really well, but then we've lost against the teams at the bottom. And they're the teams you need to beat. Not, you're better off losing to the top teams at the moment. You got to beat the teams around you.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that. So that's what we got to start changing. So people will look at, we drew with Crewe. We were probably the better team on Saturday. They're second in the league, so we should go and beat Barrow on Saturday. But as you know, with football, it don't work that way. That's the hardest, and we've got to start beating the teams around us to get us climbing up and dragging a few more teams and back into it with us.
Well, I would point you to earlier season results against Carlisle, Morecambe, Harrogate and Tranmere. So, it's not been great with the clubs around us, has it?
No.
Jamie, Birmingham, I saw them play Exeter the other week. They were excellent. They're probably the best side I've seen this season. A certain Keshy Anderson in the squad, of course, Jay Stansfield up front, 10 or 15 million, dependent on which one you believe. They got some money. They got a squad.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult one because it depends how strong a squad they're going to put out as well. I think there was some reference at the weekend. They were talking about them probably putting out quite a strong side because they're keen to get to a Wembley. I think it's a really difficult one. If hand on heart, if you said, would you take a win on Saturday over the result tomorrow night, I think I'd probably still say yes at the moment. So I don't think I'd want to risk any of the essential players where you haven't got cover. And I think part of the problem at the back in particular is, have we got cover at the moment? I still think he's going to end up bringing in another centre back at some point. So do you risk those centre backs when we've got another game? Another few over the next few weeks, there's quite a lot of games in quite a short period of time, all of which are going to be really important. So my kind of heart says it'd be lovely to have a bit of a cut run and go to the next round. My head kind of says I'd much rather have 6 points out of our next two league games. And if that means there's a few of the kids come in and you play a bit of a mixed team, and you've got some of those fringe players that may or may not be trying to get out the door, I think I'd probably take that tomorrow night, if you like. I certainly wouldn't want to risk, I agree, the Smiths, probably the two centre backs. I don't think I'd put Clark in. I think I'd take him out. I think I'd rest him again. But
there's an argument, of course, you might get injured in training. So
there is, but then do you play the percentages? I think if we ended up playing the full team and two of them ended up out for 4 or 5 weeks, what would we all be saying?
Yeah, understand that. Let's get to you in a second, Holly, about that. I just wanted to. There are more points coming in. Hi, Claire. Considering the weather, it's a poor show when the club kiosks run out of hot water, which is one of the things that we've highlighted. Could you please also take up with the club that I paid £80 for parking, and the last 5 home games someone else has parked in my space? Then a steward has to ring someone to see where I can park. Thanks. Yes, we'll add that to the list, Ellen. Don't worry. All these are going down, and we'll take notice of that. Hi, Ian. Getting battered by Birmingham will destroy confidence of first choice defence. So, Holly, where are you with this? I know, unfortunately, you'll have to join me on the pitch beforehand to talk about something which I'll talk to you about in a minute. But where do you stand in terms of tomorrow night and the season? How important is tomorrow night?
I think I'm probably with Jamie and Nick, to be honest. I think the season is so critical. Absolutely don't want to drop to non-league, So I think for me, prioritise the league. But having said that, I think, in the last kind of couple of weeks, 6 weeks or so, Ian has, Holloway has made loads of different changes and we've seen lots of different squads. So I think he probably has a good idea of different combinations. So, some of those young ones have an opportunity to shine in a cup, don't they? To fight for their league place. And like Amin on Saturday, I thought brought a lot of energy when he came on. So I would also have him, probably starting tomorrow. Is McGregor still injured? I think.
Yeah, but he was said to be close, I think, a little while ago. I think Longallo is also injured, and there was one other who I saw today. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
We'll may have Cox back on Saturday, which would be a boost for everybody. Yeah,
so I'd like to see McGregor back. I think if that was an opportunity tomorrow, I think he would, bring quite a lot to the team against Birmingham. But yeah, have to wait and see, I guess.
Jackson Brown's gone out on loan, hasn't he? So he won't be available for this one. Mike, where are you with it?
I think Holloway plays the strongest side that he feels that he can risk. He knows his players better than we do. He knows how they're feeling and how their motivation is. He actually said in his interview that he felt this game against Birmingham was very important. From where I'm sitting, we all spent an awful lot of money going to Wembley a few years ago to watch us not turn up against Chesterfield in this competition. I would rather trade a narrow defeat tomorrow for a victory on Saturday. And if that means we've got to play a weakened side, I will back Holloway on that. If he feels that he wants to risk his players and go for it, I'll be very happy to see that as well.
Yeah, I'd take your point about the Chesterfield game because we all went there, didn't we? Di Canio made, I think he brought in, didn't he bring in, oh God, the player's name, I can't remember now.
Jamie
Cleverley, that's right. Yeah, he brought him in for his debut, that's right. Yes, it was a bizarre selection, was it not?
Yeah, and he played like a cartos.
He did, but I have to say, he became a really, really good player.
Good player.
Yeah. So, no, that was one we all turned up at Wembley and went, who's this? Don't know who this is. Right, Daniel, can someone ask what's going on with the Legends Lounge? Got games, machines and pool tables for no apparent reason. Still no hot drinks or food. Well, we've heard about the hot drinks earlier. And the floor in some patches with wet weather is dangerous. Again, put it on the list, Andy. We've got a long list, which we will put.
We were under the impression that the floor was due to be done this week, but I don't know why, why that hasn't happened.
No.
I've just had a message from the club to say, incidentally, that the turnstiles were opened in the Don Rogers at 13:52, and that was it was an hour and a half later than normal, and that's obviously. and there was only access onto the concourse. It's normally out 1.5 hours before, but obviously because of the circumstances around it. So at least one positive is, we're getting responses.
Yeah. Ollie, Tony says Ollie's got a player coming in on Thursday. He said in his preview of the match tomorrow. Right, points from the next few games. Then, Andy, what do you think? I mean, looking at them, there are 3 winnable games. Although I take the point that Carlisle have strengthened and they've signed a few players, but they are 3 winnable games. Are they not?
They are indeed. I think when you go promotion form, you sort of tend to win your own games and at least draw your away ones. And he's sort of been doing that apart from Notts County. So I'd like to think that we can get 3 points on Saturday. Barrow, that's winnable. Carlisle's going to be a challenge. Newport, again, it's about time we won there. We've been having a bit of a sticky time down there. And then the big one again for me is Tranmere on the 28th, which is a must win, isn't it? So I'm confident. I've just got this feeling if you can get a bit of momentum going, 3 or 4, games, you get a win, and we'll be forgetting about National League. I hate to say that we've got any chance of the playoffs, but it's amazing what happens. And with the squad that he's got, and with the core that he's got, and as I said, maybe a couple of other players, I'm quietly confident of pulling out of this.
20 league games to go, unbelievably enough. Hi, Daniel. Just checking your point saying about the hot drinks. They haven't served hot drink or food this season. The Legends, the place that used to serve them is closed.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they as I said, they were planning to do it on Saturday. There was some issues, but I have had confirmation that hot drinks. As regards to the food, I believe there's issues around sort of like they had to change the kitchens. So I'm not further aware. We can ask them, but I'm sure it's in their interests because obviously they're losing money and they've lost quite a lot of money. Certainly on Saturday, I think a lot of people would have benefited from a hot drink and a pasty in the Legends Lounge. Certainly.
Holly, let's talk about your Her Game 2 initiative for Saturday. What are you trying to do? I think this is an initiative where you're trying to get girls and women who haven't been before to come to football.
Yeah, so Her Game 2 are running a first-time fan event, and that's exactly it for girls and women, who might want to come to football but are a little bit unsure. They don't know necessarily, how to, and it's just really to be able to support them in doing so. So I know when I first came back to Swindon and, started supporting a couple of seasons ago again and, regularly coming, I was really well supported by other fans, and so it's an opportunity, to do that as well for other people who haven't been before. So if you know of anyone interested, then I am more than happy to have a chat with anybody, or hopefully apply, and then we can get some more people in and hopefully make them feel very welcome.
I think you went to Bromley, didn't you? Did you go to Bromley?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What did you think of the? How can I put this? Facilities for women.
Oh, yeah. The away end was just awful. Yeah, absolutely horrendous. The female toilet, there was only one, and the door didn't shut properly. So, you're at risk of getting stuck in the toilet. I don't think the men's facilities were much better either.
They weren't great, no, I have to say. No.
And it was kind of a ground of 2 halves. It looked really nice from over the pitch, but it was not great. Disappointing with that one. But it is what it is, unfortunately. So
at least they're demolishing that stand in February, so that's the best.
That one is done for, yeah.
What do you think the Her Game 2 movement can do about that? Because I was reading some of the comments aimed at the Tamworth physio today, and they were how can I put this? Disgusting, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And it's still happening, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. My experience over the last couple of months since joining the campaign is, the common themes are chants that, are kind of offensive to women. So don't make women feel very welcome. at games. I think, and then abuse to players' partners, and things like that, just shouldn't happen. As well as, the, women that are working in football, like the physio we saw at the weekend. It's just really derogative, horrible terms that are being, kind of given against them. But from a Her Game 2 perspective, Kaz, our CEO, she's, reaching out, and all of the ambassadors are there to support people. And, we've seen clubs make statements where fans have, said horrible things about people. And I think, the more people report things, and you may have seen, I put the posters up at the weekend, which has the QR code and website. The more people report things, if you're unsure how big or small it is, then the more we know about it, the more we can help and provide the feedback to clubs, and then be able to support people on an individual basis. And if you want to do that anonymously as well, you can. But I think the more information is key, and the more information we have, the more we can then do something about it.
Sure, absolutely. We wish you well in your role anyway, and unfortunately, part of it is talking to be on the pitch tomorrow. Whether that can be heard anywhere in the ground, I'll leave that open debate. I'd query how many Don Rogers turnstiles opened at that time. Only one open from the middle of the stand, and Stratton Bank at 14:40, says Nick.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Let's just go round then as we wrap this up. Don't forget, Fools Rush In is at 9 o'clock if you want more Swindon Town comment. Andy, I think it's fair to say that all those comments that we've had in tonight, we will list them and put them forward to the club. We have a club meeting coming up later on this month.
We do.
They will be addressed, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and I'll also be contacting. I'll talk to Noel again tomorrow. Obviously, there's a game on, so I'll chase up any of the outstanding and see if we can get some answers. I mean, some of these things they need to investigate, and obviously they'll take a little time, certainly around the tannoy. But there's things there. They're legitimate concerns, and as a supporters club, our overriding thing is to support the fans, and when there are safety issues, it's up to us to raise them and get answers and get some results and solutions.
John says, "Sorry, Holly, point off," which is a bit harsh, I think, about your I think that's a bit harsh, John, to be fair. But
that's unfair, John.
Yeah, we'll take that up with you when we see you at Morecambe, I think. Kim says she sits to the right of the halfway line in the Don Rogers. So, again, that goes with what we've been hearing before, doesn't it? So, yeah. Okay. Right. Andy, how many points for the next 3 games?
7.
Which one? You.
Well, I'll get you in a minute. Whoa. 7, you say. Andy G.
Yes. From the next 3 games.
3 games. Yeah,
3
not
games.
one tomorrow night, obviously.
I'm going to go 7 as well, I think.
7, Nick?
9.
9, good man. Jamie?
I'll settle for 6.
Holly?
I was going to go 6 as well.
Mike?
5. Win and 2 draws.
Yeah, I think we'd certainly take draws in the away games, wouldn't we? But I'm going to go 9 with Nick. Why not?
Positive.
Positive. Come on. Let's have a smile as we finish. There's been a lot to have a go about tonight.
And 12 with tomorrow.
Yeah.
The bigger question is it penalties tomorrow?
I assume it must be after 90 minutes. It must be after 90 minutes, I suspect.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. We beat them in normal time.
We'd be out.
Helen says, Holly, keep up the good work. So there you are. That's nice to hear.
Just like to say, I've just had a message to say I think the Legends Lounge have been done after this one of 3 home games. So the flooring.
Say that again.
The flooring is being done after the end of these 3 home games. So after the Barrow game.
After the Barrow match, right? Okay, fair enough. Chris, there you are, a busy one. Lots of comments
very
coming
busy.
in, which we'll put to the club.
Yeah, we'll gather them all up, and we'll gather them all up and send that. I think Andy's made a note of them, and I'll do a list off of Facebook just to clarify. We've collect them all. So we will see you next Monday for another Monday night panel. And I will reiterate, if anybody wants to join us, please let us know, and anybody can come on. So tomorrow is a 7:30 kickoff. I reiterate that because I thought it was a 7 o'clock one, so I might have got a bit colder than waiting there. So yes, 7:30 tomorrow night, and we will all see you either tomorrow or Saturday or when you join us next week. Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.